The sun beat down on the desolate landscape, casting long shadows over the trenches that snaked across the Ukrainian countryside. The air was thick with the scent of gunpowder and the echoes of distant artillery fire, a constant reminder of the ongoing conflict. A year and a half of relentless conflict had left its mark. The once vibrant fields and bustling towns now lay in ruins, a testament to the ferocity of the battles fought here. Burned-out tanks and crumbling buildings stood as grim reminders of the ongoing war. The skeletal remains of homes and schools bore silent witness to the lives disrupted and the dreams shattered. But amidst the ruins, a glimmer of hope flickered. A single flower, defiantly growing amidst the rubble, symbolized the resilience of the human spirit. Soldiers, sharing a rare moment of laughter, found solace in each other's company. Ukrainian soldiers, weary but resolute, continued to hold the line against the invading forces. Their faces, etched with fatigue, spoke of countless sleepless nights and the weight of their duty. However, the human cost of this conflict is staggering. Memorials for fallen comrades dot the landscape, each one a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made. Ukrainian troops are facing immense challenges, their resilience tested by relentless enemy assaults and a constant barrage of artillery fire. The ground trembles with each explosion and the air is filled with the acrid smell of smoke. Low morale, fueled by mounting casualties and a sense of being outgunned, has cast a pall over the front lines. The soldiers' eyes, once filled with determination, now reflect the heavy burden they carry. Desertion rates are increasing as soldiers grapple with the brutal realities of war and the emotional toll it takes. The constant threat of death and injury weighs heavily on their minds. The situation is particularly dire in key areas like Pokrovsk, a strategic hub in the Donetsk region. Here, the fighting is fiercest and the stakes are highest. Ukrainian units, often undermanned and undersupplied, are engaged in a desperate struggle to defend their positions. Supplies are rationed and every bullet counts. The relentless shelling and ground offensives have depleted their ranks, leaving many feeling overwhelmed and demoralized. Yet they continue to fight, driven by a deep sense of duty and patriotism. Despite these challenges, the Ukrainian spirit remains unbroken. Moments of camaraderie and the sight of their national flag waving amidst the ruins provide a much-needed boost to their morale. Soldiers continue to fight with unwavering courage and determination, drawing strength from their comrades and the unwavering support of their nation. Their bravery in the face of adversity is nothing short of heroic, but the path ahead remains treacherous and the need for international assistance has never been greater. Aid from around the world is trickling in, providing much-needed supplies and support. The fate of Ukraine hangs in the balance, and the world watches with bated breath as this conflict continues to unfold. The decisions made by world leaders in the coming days and weeks will shape the future of this war-torn nation. Dima, a young Ukrainian soldier from a small village near Lviv, joined the army filled with a sense of duty to protect his homeland. He had grown up hearing stories of bravery and sacrifice from his grandparents, who had lived through previous conflicts. These stories had instilled in him a deep sense of patriotism and a desire to serve his country. He had always been a quiet and introspective young man, often lost in his thoughts. The outbreak of war, however, ignited a fire within him that he had never felt before. He felt a calling, a need to stand up and defend his nation, his family, and his friends from the encroaching threat. He underwent rigorous training, mastering the use of weapons and learning the art of combat. The training was grueling, pushing him to his physical and mental limits, yet he persevered, driven by the belief that he was preparing for something greater than himself. When he was deployed to the front lines in the Donbass region, Dima faced the horrors of war head-on. The reality of combat was far more brutal than he had ever imagined. The constant threat of death, the deafening sounds of gunfire, and the sight of destruction were overwhelming. The constant shelling, the fear of sniper fire, and the sight of fallen comrades took a heavy toll on him. Each day was a struggle for survival, and the line between life and death was razor-thin. The camaraderie among his fellow soldiers was the only thing that kept him going. He witnessed firsthand the brutality of the conflict, the indiscriminate violence that spared neither soldier nor civilian. The destruction of homes, the loss of innocent lives, and the sheer chaos of war were seared into his memory. One particular incident left an indelible mark on Dima's soul. It was a day like any other, filled with tension and uncertainty. During a fierce firefight, a mortar shell landed near his position, instantly killing several of his friends. The explosion was deafening, and the shockwave knocked him off his feet. The explosion sent shrapnel tearing through the air, leaving Dima with severe injuries to his leg and arm. The pain was immediate and intense, but the emotional impact of losing his friends was even more devastating. As he lay bleeding in the mud, the sounds of battle raging around him, Dima experienced a profound sense of despair. He felt helpless, overwhelmed by the chaos and violence that surrounded him. The physical pain was excruciating, but it was the emotional trauma that cut the deepest. The memories of that day haunted him, replaying in his mind over and over again. He had seen too much death, too much suffering. The loss of his friends weighed heavily on his heart, and he struggled to find meaning in the senseless violence. The war had broken something inside of him. The once hopeful and determined young man was now a shadow of his former self, haunted by the memories of what he had witnessed. Dima was evacuated from the front lines and spent months recovering in a military hospital. The physical wounds began to heal, but the emotional scars remained. But the scars of war ran deep. The nightmares and flashbacks were relentless, and he struggled to find peace. He was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, haunted by nightmares and flashbacks of the horrors he had witnessed. The psychological impact of the war was profound, affecting every aspect of his life. The once quiet and introspective young man was now withdrawn and prone to sudden outbursts of anger. The war had changed him in ways he could never have imagined. Unable to cope with the emotional toll of his experiences, Dima made the difficult decision to leave the military. It was a heart-wrenching choice, but he knew it was the only way to begin healing. He returned home a changed man, forever marked by the horrors he had endured. The transition to civilian life was challenging, and he struggled to find his place in a world that seemed so different from the one he had left. Dima's story is just one of countless examples of the human cost of this conflict, a stark reminder of the invisible wounds that war inflicts upon the soul. The emotional and psychological toll of war is often overlooked, but it is a burden that many soldiers carry with them long after the fighting has ended. Across the sprawling battlefields of eastern Ukraine, a sense of weariness permeates the ranks of the Ukrainian military. The once vibrant and determined faces of the soldiers now show signs of exhaustion and strain, a testament to the relentless nature of the conflict they are embroiled in. Months of relentless fighting have taken a heavy toll on the country's armed forces, leaving many units depleted and demoralized. The constant state of alert and the unending cycle of combat have worn down even the most seasoned veterans, making it increasingly difficult to maintain the morale and fighting spirit that are crucial in such a protracted conflict. The initial surge of volunteers who answered the call to arms has dwindled, and the pool of fresh recruits is struggling to keep pace with the relentless attrition of war. Training new soldiers takes time, and the urgency of the situation often means that these recruits are thrust into the front lines with minimal preparation, further exacerbating the challenges faced by the Ukrainian military. The situation is particularly acute in key frontline areas like Avdiivka and Pisky, where Ukrainian troops are locked in a grueling war of attrition with Russian-backed separatist forces. These areas have become symbolic of the broader struggle, with both sides unwilling to cede ground, resulting in a brutal stalemate that shows no signs of abating. These towns, once bustling with life, have been reduced to rubble-strewn ghost towns, their streets eerily silent, save for the echo of distant artillery fire. The destruction is a stark reminder of the human cost of war, with homes, schools and businesses lying in ruins, and the once thriving communities now deserted. The constant bombardment and close-quarters combat have inflicted heavy casualties on Ukrainian units, stretching medical facilities to their breaking point. Battlefield medics work tirelessly to stabilize the wounded, often under fire themselves, showcasing the bravery and dedication of those who risk their lives to save others. Hospitals in nearby cities like Dnipro and Zaporizhia are overflowing with wounded soldiers, many bearing horrific injuries that will require months, if not years, of rehabilitation. The medical staff in these facilities are overwhelmed, struggling to provide care with limited resources, and the emotional toll on both the patients and the caregivers is immense. The shortage of manpower is further compounded by a lack of essential equipment and supplies. Soldiers often find themselves without adequate protective gear, ammunition, or even basic necessities like food and water, making their already difficult task even more daunting. While Western allies have provided significant military aid to Ukraine, including anti-tank weapons, ammunition, and armored vehicles, these deliveries have often been slow to arrive and insufficient to meet the needs of the Ukrainian military. The logistical challenges of transporting and distributing this aid in a war zone further complicate the situation, leaving many frontline units under-equipped and vulnerable. The situation is taking a toll on the morale of Ukrainian soldiers, many of whom feel that they are being outgunned and outmatched by their adversaries. The psychological strain of facing a well-equipped and determined enemy, combined with the physical hardships of combat, has led to a growing sense of frustration and despair among the troops. The lack of adequate air cover and long-range artillery has left them vulnerable to Russian airstrikes and artillery barrages, forcing them to fight a largely defensive war from static positions. This defensive posture limits their ability to launch counteroffensives and regain lost territory, further contributing to the sense of stagnation and helplessness. The human cost of this conflict is becoming increasingly apparent as the war grinds on. The loss of comrades, the destruction of homes, and the displacement of families weigh heavily on the soldiers, many of whom struggle to find meaning and purpose in the face of such overwhelming adversity. Ukrainian soldiers, many of whom are young conscripts with limited combat experience, are paying a heavy price for their country's independence. These young men and women who should be building their futures are instead caught in the brutal reality of war, their lives forever altered by the conflict. The physical and psychological scars of this conflict will continue to haunt them long after the guns have fallen silent. The trauma of combat, the loss of friends, and the constant threat of death leave deep and lasting wounds that will take years to heal if they ever do. The resilience and courage of these soldiers are a testament to their dedication, but the cost of this war is a burden they will carry for the rest of their lives.